the art of becoming mentally dangerous. There's a certain kind of person you can't manipulate, the one who sees the truth behind every smile, who listens quietly but notices everything, who doesn't need to raise their voice to command respect. They're not cruel, but they're not naive either. They've learned, often through pain, that kindness without strength is an invitation to be used. These are the people we call mentally dangerous, those who move through chaos with calm precision, who can't be easily fooled, pressured, or broken. And when we talk about learning to think that way, no one offers darker, sharper lessons than Niccolo Machiavelli. Most people hear his name and instantly think of manipulation, scheming, or cold-blooded politics. They imagine him whispering in the ear of tyrants, teaching them how to deceive. But the truth is more complex and far more useful. Machiavelli wasn't teaching cruelty, he was exposing reality. He pulled the curtain off human behavior and showed what people really do when power, fear, and ambition enter the room. And his insights, stripped of their royal context, reveal something every person today can use: how to stay grounded, strategic, and unbreakable in a world that constantly tests your boundaries. In this video, we'll explore the dark but enlightening lessons that made Machiavelli infamous, and how to turn them into mental armor. These lessons won't make you heartless, but they will make you sharp. They'll teach you how to think with both empathy and calculation, to protect your peace without losing your power. If you've ever felt underestimated, used, or betrayed, this is the mindset that ensures it never happens again. Let's start with Machiavelli's first and most controversial truth: why it is better to be feared than loved. 1. It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. Machiavelli's most infamous line is simple but brutal. It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. At first glance it sounds heartless, almost tyrannical, but look deeper and you'll see a truth about human psychology that most people are too polite to admit. Love is fragile. It fades when people's feelings change, when interests clash, or when someone decides you're no longer useful. Fear, or rather respect rooted in consequence, is more stable. People might not adore you, but they'll think twice before crossing you. And in a world where loyalty often dissolves under pressure, that kind of respect is priceless. To apply this lesson doesn't mean you become cruel or domineering. It means you develop presence. You set boundaries that actually mean something. You stop apologizing for protecting your peace. When you say no, it stays no. When you make a promise, you keep it. People start to realize that your words carry weight, and that disappointment from you has consequences. That's the kind of subtle fear Machiavelli valued. Not terror, but respect built from consistency and strength. It's the same principle a lion commands in the wild. Others may not love it, but they know better than to test it. But Machiavelli adds a warning that makes this lesson complete: never be hated. Fear without hatred earns respect. Fear with hatred breeds rebellion. To be mentally dangerous, you must find that razor's edge: assertive but fair, respected but not resented. People should know that crossing you is a mistake, but they should also see that you are just, grounded, and controlled. This balance transforms you from someone who simply demands respect into someone who naturally commands it. Love fades, admiration wavers, but earned fear, balanced by integrity, lasts. 2. Appearances over reality. The power of perception. Everyone sees what you appear to be, Machiavelli wrote, but few experience what you really are. This is one of his most misunderstood statements, and yet it's the backbone of influence in every era. From ancient courts to social media today, people don't respond to your inner truth. They respond to what they perceive. They judge by what they see, what they hear, and what your energy communicates. If you want power, whether over a business meeting, a negotiation, or your own reputation, you have to learn how to shape that perception intentionally. In practice, this means learning how to control your image. You don't have to fake your identity, but you do have to manage your presentation. Confidence, composure, and calmness send a message that no words can match. When people see you steady under pressure, they assume you're competent. When they see you panic or over-explain, they assume weakness. That's the psychology Machiavelli understood centuries before personal branding existed. The powerful don't always have to be the smartest in the room, but they look like they know where they're going. And in a world driven by optics, perception often creates reality. This lesson also comes with a deeper moral question. Should we care more about seeming good than being good? Machiavelli's answer was unapologetically pragmatic. The ends justify the means. That's a line often taken out of context. But the essence is that appearances sustain order. If you're genuinely good, let it show strategically, not naively. Let people see the version of you that protects you best. A mentally dangerous person understands that authenticity doesn't mean exposure, it means alignment. You can be genuine in your values while being deliberate about how the world perceives you. That's not manipulation, that's mastery. 3. Adaptability. Seeing the world as it is, not as you wish it to be. One of Machiavelli's most underappreciated ideas is the necessity of adaptability, the ability to evolve with changing times. He warned that those who cling to outdated habits or ideals eventually destroy themselves. In The Prince he wrote, "Whosoever desires constant success must change his conduct with the times." That single line is the blueprint of resilience. Most people cling to comfort. They resist change, hoping the world will stay the same long enough for them to feel secure. But life doesn't care about your preferences. It moves, shifts, and reshapes everything without asking. To survive, you must move with it, not against it. That is the first law of mental danger. Stay flexible or be broken. Adaptability means you train yourself to see the world as it truly is, not how you want it to be. Most people project their hopes onto reality. They believe things should go a certain way, and when they don't, they crumble. A Machiavellian mind doesn't do that. It observes patterns coldly, even when they're uncomfortable. If someone betrays you, the lesson isn't just they were wrong, it's I misjudged their incentives. If a plan fails, it's not unfair fate. It's a data point revealing where you misread the environment. You stop taking life personally, and you start taking it strategically. The world doesn't owe you fairness, it gives you information. The dangerous mind uses that information, adapts, and thrives. But adaptability isn't just survival, it's power. When others are panicking because their old methods no longer work, you're already rewriting your playbook. You adjust your tone, your approach, your expectations. You stay unpredictable, impossible to trap. And that's what makes you mentally dangerous. People can't predict your next move because you don't cling to any single pattern. Machiavelli saw adaptability as the bridge between fortune, fortuna, and virtue, virtu, between chaos and mastery. The adaptable mind doesn't fear change, it uses it as a weapon. 4. Calculated risk, the virtue of boldness. Machiavelli believed that timidity was one of the greatest weaknesses a leader could have. He wrote, "Never was anything great achieved without danger. To live safely, to never take risks, is to guarantee mediocrity." Yet he didn't advocate recklessness. He advocated calculated boldness, the kind that comes from clear-eyed assessment followed by decisive action. The mentally dangerous person doesn't wait for perfect conditions because perfection never comes. They read the battlefield, choose their moment, and move. Waiting for certainty is the coward's delay. In Machiavelli's world, and in ours, fortune favors those who act with intent. Think of it this way: hesitation breeds weakness. Every time you second-guess yourself, the world moves without you. Opportunities expire, respect fades, enemies gain ground. Machiavelli knew that half measures lead to destruction. He famously advised that when you must injure someone, do it in such a way that you need not fear their vengeance. In psychological terms, that means, if you must confront a problem, confront it completely. Don't deliver half-truths, half-decisions, or half-commitments. Every unfinished act becomes a seed of future chaos. The bold act, when timed and executed well, ends the problem before it grows teeth. The art of calculated risk is about building courage through clarity. You study outcomes, weigh costs, prepare contingencies, then act without hesitation. That decisiveness makes you magnetic. People follow those who seem certain. The Machiavellian lesson isn't to gamble blindly, but to understand when caution becomes paralysis. Fortune, he said, is like a woman. She favors the bold. You don't conquer her by pleading, you win her through assertive action. To be mentally dangerous is to embrace that tension, bold enough to move, wise enough to calculate, ruthless enough to finish what you start. 5. Emotional control and the inner fortress. If Machiavelli had written a book on modern psychology, its first chapter would have been about emotional mastery. He understood long before Freud that human behavior is driven by emotion, fear, pride, anger, insecurity, and that whoever controls their emotions controls themselves. The average person is a puppet of their impulses. They react to every insult, panic under stress, and lose composure when things go wrong. The mentally dangerous individual is different. They remain composed when others unravel. They know that emotion clouds reason, and reason is the sharpest weapon in any room. Building that composure takes discipline. You learn to observe yourself under stress, to catch the tremor before it becomes a storm. When someone provokes you, you don't instantly react. You pause, you analyze, you ask, what do they want from this reaction? That tiny space between stimulus and response is where power lives. It's not about suppressing emotion, it's about channeling it. Your anger becomes fuel for strategy. Your fear becomes a map of what matters most. Machiavelli's ideal prince was not heartless but self-governed. His emotions served him, they never ruled him. That is the mark of mental danger. Calm in chaos, still when others flinch. Machiavelli also believed that every strong mind needs an inner fortress, a place no enemy can breach. It's not a wall of isolation but of stability. It's the discipline of knowing who you are, even when the world misunderstands you. Inside that fortress, you can think clearly, plan strategically, and recover quickly. The person who lacks that inner stronghold seeks constant validation. The person who has it moves through life untouched by chaos. That's what makes them dangerous, not their cruelty, but their calm. They are the eye of the storm, steady, silent, unshakable. 6. Ethics and restraint, wielding power without losing yourself. Machiavelli's lessons are dangerous not because they're evil, but because they strip away illusions. And most people can't handle that kind of clarity without letting it corrupt them. To become mentally dangerous without becoming morally hollow, you have to understand restraint. Power without ethics is poison. It consumes the wielder first. Machiavelli himself was often misunderstood. People called him a teacher of evil. But in truth, he was describing how evil operates, so that others could recognize and survive it. He wasn't saying be cruel, he was saying, if cruelty becomes necessary, be deliberate. and only when it protects stability. That's the difference between control and chaos. The true mental warrior doesn't seek to dominate others, they seek to master themselves. They understand that manipulation and deceit are tools, not lifestyles. A manipulator lives in constant paranoia because they know the world they've built rests on lies. A strategist, on the other hand, operates from awareness, not malice. They know when to speak truth and when silence serves better. They know when to reveal power and when to hide it. Ethics, for the Machiavellian mind, isn't weakness, it's direction. Without a moral compass, power drifts, and even the most brilliant mind becomes its own downfall. Restraint, therefore, is not softness, it is strength held in check. To be mentally dangerous and still humane is the highest form of discipline. It means you can act with precision and force when required, but you choose not to unless absolutely necessary. You know the darkness, but you don't live in it. You understand manipulation, but you prefer truth because it costs less energy. Machiavelli teaches that understanding evil doesn't make you evil, it makes you prepared. You don't fear deceit because you recognize it. You don't fear betrayal because you've accepted that it's part of human nature. You move through life armored with awareness and guided by purpose. That's not cruelty, that's evolution. 7. Application, power, strategy, and everyday life. It's easy to imagine Machiavelli's ideas belonging only to kings and generals, but the reality is that his lessons apply everywhere. In offices, relationships, negotiations, and even family dynamics. Every environment has its politics, every group has power plays, and those who refuse to learn how power works are destined to be controlled by those who do. Being mentally dangerous in everyday life doesn't mean playing games or being cold, it means being alert, strategic, and in command of your choices. You see through manipulation. You set boundaries that hold, and you never hand your emotional reins to anyone else. Start small. When you say yes, mean it. When you say no, enforce it. People learn how to treat you based on what you tolerate. If you're inconsistent, they'll test your limits. If you're firm but fair, they'll respect them. Machiavelli's advice to rulers applies perfectly to personal boundaries. It's safer to be respected than adored. In business, this might mean negotiating from clarity instead of desperation. In friendship or love, it means staying independent instead of needy. A mentally dangerous person doesn't chase approval, they attract respect. They understand that every interaction communicates power dynamics, and they manage them with quiet intelligence. And perhaps most importantly, the Machiavellian mindset teaches emotional independence. When you stop craving constant validation, you become unpredictable, and therefore powerful. People can't manipulate someone who isn't desperate to be liked. You learn to hold your composure when others panic, to think clearly when emotions flare, and to protect your dignity when others try to drag you into chaos. That's not coldness. That's maturity. When you apply Machiavelli's dark lessons with wisdom, you stop being controlled by life's storms and start navigating them like a seasoned captain. 8. Psychological warfare, seeing the game before it's played. Machiavelli's mind operated like a chessboard. He didn't just react, he calculated. He believed that to win in any environment, you must anticipate others' motives before they act. This is the foundation of psychological warfare, understanding that everyone is playing a game, whether they admit it or not. The difference between the strong and the weak is awareness. The weak think in moments, the strong think in moves. To be mentally dangerous, you must learn to read people's incentives, their fears, desires, and insecurities, and predict what they'll do next. Once you can do that, you're no longer a piece on the board, you're the player. Psychological awareness doesn't mean paranoia, it's pattern recognition. When someone flatters you too much, you ask, what do they want? When a coworker always agrees, you think, what's their angle? When tension rises, you watch who stays calm. They're the ones with leverage. Machiavelli believed the wise leader learns not from words, but from patterns of behavior. People may lie, but their motives always leak through actions. In today's world, this skill is more vital than ever. It keeps you from being manipulated, scammed, or emotionally exploited. You don't live in suspicion, you live in understanding. But the deeper beauty of this mindset is not dominance, it's protection. When you can read motives, you can also lead better, communicate better, and avoid unnecessary conflict. You begin to see people for who they truly are, not who they pretend to be. That awareness brings peace, not paranoia. You don't overreact, you outthink. You don't lash out, you redirect. Machiavelli called this the balance of the fox and the lion, cunning and strength, intellect and power. When you master that balance, you stop fighting every battle, because you already know which ones you'll win before they begin. Conclusion: the shadow that teaches strength. To become mentally dangerous is not to become dark, it's to walk through darkness and come out unafraid. Machiavelli's teachings are unsettling because they force us to face what we'd rather ignore, that people deceive, that life isn't fair, that power isn't granted, it's taken, earned, or lost. But within those harsh truths lies liberation. Once you stop expecting the world to be gentle, you stop being fragile. You stop breaking every time someone disappoints you. You stop surrendering your peace to others' moods. You start living with intention, composure, and quiet authority. That's what Machiavelli wanted his students, his princes, to understand. Power begins in the mind. The dark lessons of Machiavelli don't make you heartless. They make you self-possessed. They teach you when to act and when to wait, when to forgive and when to protect, when to trust and when to let go. They train you to see the machinery behind the mask, the real motivations, the real stakes. You learn that strength is not loud, cruelty is not power, and silence is often the most dangerous move of all. You become the kind of person who doesn't chase control but naturally commands it. The world bends slightly around your calm, because people sense when someone truly understands how it works. So, when you hear Machiavelli's name, don't think of manipulation, think of awareness. Think of the quiet strategist inside you learning to survive, adapt, and lead. To be mentally dangerous is to see without illusion, to act without hesitation, and to live without fear. It's not about darkness, it's about depth. And when you walk that path, with wisdom as your compass and restraint as your armor, you won't just navigate power, you'll embody it.